He whispered the words softly, fragile yet brave. I wish I could marry you. Her alien eyes glimmered, and her answer fell like a blade across his heart. In that moment, love collided with law, and his world shattered into silence.
He whispered the words softly, fragile yet brave, his voice trembling with the weight of forbidden desire. I wish I could marry you. The silence that followed was heavier than any blade, pressing against the air, against her heart, against the fragile bond they had built in secret. Her alien eyes shimmered, not with joy but with sorrow, and her answer fell like a storm across his world. She told him it was impossible, that her people forbade it, that her crown bound her to laws older than stars. The words shattered him, yet he did not look away. She turned from him, her voice breaking, whispering that even if she wanted him, she could not have him. The cruelty of tradition, the weight of duty, the chains of her people's logic held her captive. He stood still, his chest aching, his heart refusing to retreat. Humans were not built for silence, not built for surrender. He had spoken his truth, and though her answer had broken him, he would not let it erase what he felt. Her people measured worth in obedience, in law, in structure. Humans measured worth in something else: emotion, courage, the willingness to risk everything for love. And in that moment, his whispered wish became more than desire. It became defiance. She studied him, her gaze piercing, her silence louder than any decree. She had expected him to crumble, to retreat, to accept the impossibility of their bond. Yet he did not. He stood firm, his eyes steady, his presence unyielding. Her heart trembled, caught between fear and longing. She had ruled galaxies, commanded armies, silenced dissent with a glance. Yet here was a human who spoke words no one dared, who risked himself with a whisper, who shattered his own world for her. She felt her defenses crack, her certainty dissolve, her soul awaken. She whispered again, softer this time, "You cannot have me." He answered, his voice steady, "Then let me keep wishing." The chamber of her mind filled with echoes of his words, each one striking harder than any blade. She had been taught that humans were fragile, emotional, unpredictable. Yet now she saw that fragility was strength, that emotion was courage, that unpredictability was love. She wanted to deny it, wanted to cling to the laws that protected her, but she could not. His whisper lingered, his presence burned, his truth refused to fade. She turned away, her crown heavy, her scars hidden, her heart trembling. He watched her, his chest aching, his soul breaking, yet his eyes remained steady. He had spoken his truth, and though her answer had shattered him, he would not regret it. He had wished aloud, and in that wish, he had revealed the depth of his humanity. She felt her breath catch, her silence speak louder than her words, her heart betray her logic. They stood apart, bound by silence, bound by law, bound by love. He whispered again, softer, almost to himself, "I wish I could marry you." She closed her eyes, her voice trembling. "Even if I want you, I cannot." The words cut him, yet they also revealed something deeper: desire hidden beneath denial, love buried beneath duty. He heard it, felt it, understood it. And though his world had shattered, he knew it was not the end. Her alien answer had broken him, yet it had also revealed her heart. She wanted him, even if she could not have him. She loved him, even if she could not say it. And in that truth, he found strength. Humans were not built to surrender. They were built to fight, to hope, to love beyond reason. And so he stood, his whisper lingering, his heart unbroken, his soul defiant. She avoided me after her answer, retreating into silence, convinced that my whispered wish had been nothing more than a fragile dream destined to break. Yet even in her distance, I felt her presence, the weight of her gaze lingering when she thought I did not notice. She tested me with sharp words, with cold dismissals, with questions meant to drive me away. She asked why humans spoke of love so easily, why we risked our hearts when logic proved it futile. I answered not with arguments but with warmth, with laughter, with a steadiness that unsettled her more than any blade could. Her fascination grew despite herself. She studied me as though I were a puzzle she could not solve. My unpredictability confused her, my refusal to abandon her unsettled her, my persistence intrigued her. She had lived her life surrounded by law, by duty, by chains of tradition. Yet here was a human who did not flinch, who did not calculate, who did not treat her as untouchable. I treated her as someone real, someone vulnerable, someone worth knowing. One night, I spoke of her scars, not with disgust but with reverence. I told her they were proof of survival, marks of strength. She froze, her heart twisting, convinced I was mocking her. No one had ever spoken of her scars as anything but shame. She withdrew, her silence heavy, her suspicion sharp. She believed my whispered wish had been a cruel fantasy, a joke meant to remind her of what she could never have. She fled from me, her mind consumed by betrayal. But when danger struck, it was not words that proved me true but actions. Shadows moved against her, blades drawn, voices whispering rebellion. She braced herself for betrayal, certain I would abandon her. Yet I did not. I stepped forward, shielding her with my body, risking myself without hesitation. My hands were steady as I fought, my voice calm as I reassured her. When the threat was gone, I knelt beside her, bandaging her wounds with care. My touch was gentle, my eyes filled with concern. She stared at me, disbelief warring with hope. Her defenses cracked. The bitterness she had carried for so long began to dissolve. She realized that suspicion had been born from loneliness, from the ache of never being chosen. And now, here was a human who had chosen her instinctively, who stayed even when she tried to drive him away, who risked himself without hesitation. She whispered, her voice trembling. "Why do you keep doing this?" I answered simply, "Because you matter." The words struck her harder than any blade, harder than any insult. She began to watch me differently. My laughter no longer felt mocking. It felt alive. My unpredictability no longer frightened her. It fascinated her. She found herself drawn to my warmth, to the way I spoke without calculation, to the way I touched her hand without hesitation. She realized that humans carried something her people did not: emotion unbound, love unmeasured, courage born not of logic but of heart. The tension between us grew, subtle yet undeniable. She caught herself staring at me, her breath quickening when my eyes met hers. I spoke of her beauty, not in the way her people defined it, but in the way I saw her strength, her resilience, her vulnerability. She wanted to deny it, wanted to cling to the laws that protected her, but she could not. My words seeped into her, breaking down walls she had built over years of rejection. One night she whispered, "You confuse me, human, but I cannot stop loving you." I smiled, not mocking, not cruel, but warm. "Then let me keep confusing you." The words carried no logic, no calculation, but they carried something far greater: emotion. She felt her heart soften, her suspicion dissolve, her loneliness replaced by something she had never dared to imagine: hope. She realized that perhaps confusion was not something to fear. Perhaps it was the beginning of something she had longed for but never believed possible. She had been bound by law, by duty, by rejection, but now she found herself chosen, not by force, not by pity, but by a human who saw her as more than her crown, more than her scars, more than her duty. She felt her world shift, her heart open, her soul awaken. The alien woman understood then that humans were different. They were unpredictable, brave, emotional. They saw beauty where others saw flaws, strength where others saw weakness. And in that difference, she found herself falling, not into despair, not into denial, but into love. The council's voices rose like thunder, each decree sharpened into judgment, each demand meant to erase what we had built. They spoke of law, of tradition, of impossibility. They told her she could not choose me, that a human could never stand beside their queen, that my whispered wish was nothing but defiance. She stood silent, her crown heavy, her scars hidden, her heart trembling between fear and longing. For a moment, she considered surrender, considered retreating into the safety of obedience. But before she could speak, I stepped forward, my voice steady, my presence unyielding. I declared that my love was not mistake, not fantasy, not weakness. I told them that beauty was not theirs to define, that scars were not shame but survival, that she was more than their mockery, more than their law, more than their fear. The chamber erupted, disbelief echoing against crystalline walls. They pressed harder, their logic unrelenting, their tradition unshaken. Yet I did not falter. I spoke of humanity, of emotion, of courage. I told them that humans did not measure worth in crowns or scars, but in the heart that endured, in the soul that refused to break. I told them that she had been bound by duty, mocked by her people, denied love, but to me she was radiant, powerful, unforgettable. My words carried no calculation, no strategy, but they carried something greater, truth born of love. She stared at me, her eyes wide, her breath caught. No one had ever spoken for her. No one had ever defied the council for her. No one had ever risked themselves to claim her. She felt her world shift, her armor crack, her soul awaken. The bitterness that had haunted her dissolved, replaced by devotion, by hope, by the certainty that she was no longer alone. She realized that humans were different, that they saw beyond scars, beyond rejection, beyond fear. They saw with their hearts, and in that vision, she was not mocked, not discarded, not forbidden. She was chosen. The council demanded silence, demanded obedience, demanded that I step back. But she no longer heard them. All that mattered was the man before her, the human who had risked everything to stand beside her. She stepped closer, her voice trembling but strong. "You confuse me, human," she whispered, "but you have given me something I never believed I could have." I met her gaze, my eyes unwavering, my presence steady. "Then let me keep giving it to you." The chamber fell silent, the weight of her words echoing through the hall. She reached for my hand, her fingers trembling, her scars visible, her vulnerability laid bare. I took her hand without hesitation, my grip firm yet gentle, a promise without words. The council gasped, their disbelief shattered by the undeniable truth before them. She was no longer the queen bound by law, no longer the ruler silenced by tradition. She was a woman who had chosen, and she had chosen me. Her heart melted, her soul ignited, her world forever changed. She whispered, her voice soft but powerful. "You whispered you wished to marry me. I shattered your world. But now, I rebuild it with you." My answer was simple, my voice steady, my words unforgettable. "And I will never let you go." The crystalline walls shimmered, the silence heavy, the moment eternal. She had been bound by duty, mocked by her people, denied love. But now she was chosen, loved, cherished. The human had shown her that beauty was not in perfection, not in fear, not in cruelty, but in courage, in vulnerability, in love. And in that truth, she found herself reborn.